the audio? Audio? Good evening. Friday night. How's everybody doing? Are you guys getting a lot out of this seminar? Filling up your seminar notes sheets? All right. Hey, we'll get started a little bit late. Of course, we always run into some sort of technological issue, it seems, but here we are, and we're glad you're all here tonight. Those that are watching us via Facebook or YouTube, welcome to Friday night's From Sickness to Health seminar. I just want to take a moment. We've talked about the class, the 10-week class that we will be hosting at the end of this seminar. It's called the New Life Challenge, and we're going to go through these 10 principles, which makes up the acronym, the New Life. Okay, so in your packet, you would have received this sheet. Those that have been online, you should have got it emailed to you in the introductory packet. It says the New Life Challenge equals healthy self. So if you're interested in attending the class or want some information, please fill this out, and you can turn it in as you leave. If you are online, you can go ahead and fill that form out and email it to us at the email address on the screen, which is info@tacoma-cco.org. So go ahead, if you're interested in joining that class, we will look forward to helping you to obtain that new life as we move from sickness to health. Got a couple of new people here tonight, so I just want to let you know that we're doing everything we can during this COVID-19 time to make sure that everybody is safe in here. We have 4-air filtration systems going during the program. We do a disinfectant fog each morning, and we got face masks. We're checking everybody's temperature as they walk in to make sure everybody is safe. So if you are home and you want to still join us, we got 2 more nights. Don't miss out. This is some exciting information for a time that we so live right now. All right, so tonight's topic, does anybody remember what that is? Where's the rest of my sleep? So don't fall asleep because you're going to want to hear this information. So at this time, we'll go ahead and bring Rico up. Sit back, grab out your pens and your paper, and be ready to take some notes.
So much, Mark. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome back to From Sickness to Health. I trust you've had a good day today. Those of you who are joining us via live stream, I'm wishing you a blessed day as well. Hope that you had a great day, and I hope that you're ready to continue learning with us as we continue the From Sickness to Health program and seminar. I had a great day. I had a really good day. I went over to that park. I think it's called Chambers Park, right here in Tacoma. Is that Tacoma? Went over there, and the guy told me that it is a 4 mile or 4.5 miles, I think so, something like that, around the entire park as you go around that golf course. And I did it today. Feel great now. I was following the principles that I've been talking about. And I had a bottle of water with me, so I had that one down. So I had exercise. I had my water. I was out in the fresh air. And guess what happened? As I was walking, just as I got started, the sun came out. So I got 4 of the principles all at one time. It was very, very exciting. So I want you to know that this is not just talk. Wherever I go, I bring my shoes and something to exercise in. A couple times the pastor has said to me, well, what'd you do today? And I said, well, there's a gym right here at the church, and I go in there and I get a little exercise. It's something that we have to do. And as I established as we got started, it is a law. These are principles that we should live by. They are, some people refer to them as the doctors who make house calls. Yeah, they're simple, they're easy, and you know what? Either free or very inexpensive, right? How much does it cost to go out and get fresh air? Now, I don't know if you all have the best air here, but it seems pretty good to me. But it's free. Whatever, it's free, right? And water's not terribly expensive. If your water's clean and that comes out of your sink faucet, then, you know, it's good to drink. Then drink it. Or you can put a filter on it, and then it's free, right? Sunshine, whenever it's here. And I'm always thankful. For some reason, when I come here, I get some sunshine. So I'm very excited about that as well. Okay, so tonight, we're going to talk about another principle, and that is as we deal with the principle of sleep, rest. And what's the difference between rest and sleep? Is there a difference? How many of you all get a good night's sleep every night? Oh, good. A couple people. You're shaking your head no over there. What about you online? You get a good night's rest? You know, you get a good night. I mean, where you lay your head down and you don't wake up until the alarm clock goes on. It feels like you only got, you know, you've been asleep for maybe 2 minutes. You know that feeling? Well, there is a terrible epidemic in this country, and that is a lack of sleep. There is a sleep deficiency. Most Americans don't get a good night's sleep. Do you know the number of hours that you should sleep? 7 to 8 hours of sleep. That's what you need, and it's a law. There's no getting around it. You must follow this law, right? There was a kid in Japan. You know these multiplayer games where you can be in one country and you can be on your game, and somebody can be in a completely different country somewhere else in the world, and you can be playing against each other, competing against each other. You know about those type of games? Well, there was this one kid, and he was in Japan. And, he was a good player, and he had mastered the game. And he was on this thing day and night. And, you know, the sun would rise and set, and he'd keep playing. And right as somebody in some other place in the world was going to bed, somebody else was waking up. And so he just kept playing right through. And by the time 7 days went by, his mother had enough. She said, get up and get outside and you get some fresh air. And as the story goes, he got up, and as he stepped outside, he collapsed. And that young man died for lack of sleep. See, that goes to show you that it doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter how young you are, you need rest. And what we want to determine this evening is the difference between rest and sleep. And you can hear it in the title, can't you? Where is the rest of my sleep? Suggesting that somehow you're missing some. And we're doing things, for the most part, that's preventing us from having a good night's rest. I've got some exciting things to share with you. I hope you're ready. But first, I want to talk about some of the key takeaways from last night. I really like giving that presentation on heart disease and when hearts attack. I really do, because I always am convinced that somebody has benefited, because this is a pervasive problem in our world, really. And I think it opens people's eyes. So first and foremost, I wanted to communicate last night that you and your heart are amazing. We talked about the functionality of the heart, the physiology of the heart, right? And all that it does, how it pumps 1.5 gallons of blood every hour, 100,000 times every day. Your heart is beating for you, and that it loves you and wants to keep you moving, right? Not plugged into anything, yet there's electrical currents flowing through it, right? Your heart is not attacking you, never will, never has. It loves you. Heart disease is our greatest threat, right? It's what we looked at last night. A quarter of heart attacks are repeats. People who had a heart attack, and then they had another heart attack. And we determined last night that people could only have that experience because they did not learn what was the cause in the first place, right? And when we don't know, we're bound to repeat the same behaviors. That's why we have these kind of seminars, right? And I'm hoping, it is my hope, that as you learn these things, you go and share them. So that somebody else, you'd be surprised. Some of us take it for granted. We take it for granted that, you know what, I've heard this stuff before, and everybody knows it. No, they don't. You'd be surprised. And again, we emphasize and will continue to emphasize the fact that in this COVID-19 coronavirus era, there is going to be an attack directly on the heart. And if you have just the slightest bit of heart disease, then you are much more susceptible, 3 times likely, to have a coronavirus episode that will land you in the ICU on a ventilator. And we don't want that to happen to anybody, not one. So we want to be very careful. Not only that, if a person should happen to have the experience where they actually come down with coronavirus, even if they have a healthy heart, your heart will never be the same because it's damaged through that process, right? So again, we're really stressing to make sure that you have a healthy heart. Now, I want to make the point, there was a statement that was made. It was by Dr. Michael Greger, who wrote the book. He authored the book, How Not to Die. And he said something profound as they looked at all of the cases where people looked at the hearts of those who had died suddenly, had died from some type of tragedy, right? And they looked at the ages, and they were all the way down from 26 years of age down to 10 years of age, and they saw that there was already atherosclerosis, the hardening of the arteries. There was heart disease already forming that young. Typically, we think that that's going to be the case for people who are in their 60s or 70s or 80s, but no. It all depends on lifestyle. Is that right? So we want to keep that in mind. So I like the statement that was made by Dr. Michael Greger. He says, now is not the time to change your diet and lifestyle to avoid heart disease, but more so to reverse the heart disease you might already have, right? And oftentimes people don't know. I have a good friend. She lives in Kansas, Wichita, Kansas. And I have been praying for her and with her because she's a relatively young lady. She's in her early 60s. And come to find out, she needs triple bypass heart surgery. which is going to be taking place in the next couple of days. And I've just been talking with her and sharing with her and encouraging her. But for years and years, she never knew that she had something like 80% blockage, occlusion is what they call it. And she didn't know. And she had had it for years. So I'm sad to say, I asked her, I said, well, when we had our last conversation, which was a couple of years ago, I said, did you make some changes? Did you take some things that might be clogging your arteries out of your diet? And sadly, she told me that she had not. And now she has to get surgery. So we want to make these points and emphasize these points because oftentimes it's something that you can do. Take control of your health. Yeah? And we also talked about the fact that change is the key to better health, as I just mentioned. Doctors receive, this was a point last night, doctors receive very little nutrition education. They get very little education in the area of nutrition. Therefore, it's not likely for them to educate you on that which they have not been educated on themselves, right? Bill Clinton overcame. He worked with Dr. Dean Ornish, who wrote the book Reversing Heart Disease and Undo It, which showed clearly that these things are reversible, and Bill Clinton, the former president, is an example of that, right? And then finally, your heart loves you. Your heart loves you, and we ought to love our heart back. In fact, I talked about eating the kind of foods that love you. That actually, when you eat those foods, they protect your heart. They defend your heart. They are the kind of foods that increase your immune system, immune function, and even there are, and this blew me away, there's a book by Dr. William Lee. Dr. William Lee, and in that book he wrote called Eat to Beat Disease. Eat to Beat Disease. He shows how there are certain foods that actually repair blood vessels, repair tissue. And I have to tell you, none of them are out in the pasture. Well, they don't come from a pasture. They don't come from a factory farm of free-range, this or that. Anything that had a mama or a face. No, no, no. It's just the things from the garden that do this. So keep that in mind. Now, Mark did mention that there's going to be a 10-week, is it 10 weeks? Is it 10 weeks, Mark? 10 weeks of going through a program is called Healthy Self. It's after the name of this book. And anyone out there, maybe you have been wanting to come down, for whatever reason you've not been able to make it, I want you to know that shortly after this week, there will be a course on how to go from sickness to health using this book. Many people in this area have gone through it, and they have benefited greatly. I see some of them even in the audience tonight. And by the way, you look good. You look good. So, want you to know that you too can join. It is not something difficult. You don't have to go through a bunch of, I don't think they're doing it virtually though. You have to come, and I'm sure they'll practice the same measures that are being practiced right here now so you can stay safe. What would it benefit to be talking about health and expose you to something that would make you unhealthy? So, they're making sure that you will be safe and healthy. So just join them. Let's keep going here. So as I mentioned to you, that there is a major sleep deficit in our world, in our country specifically. People are not getting enough sleep. And this is affecting people on so many levels. You have no idea on how many levels it's affecting us. Now, what is rest? Let's really distinguish what we're talking about when we say that there is a difference between rest and sleep. Now, a person can go to bed, tonight you'll do that. And I imagine some of you, You'll get that last little check on your social media feed. You'll get that last little look on maybe one of the online networks like CNN or MSNBC or maybe on Fox News, and you want to get the news of the day, right? Or maybe you do something else on it, I don't know, but you are sitting there and you spend maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes, a half hour, and you allow that light to enter into your eyes, and then it just completely throws your brain off, and you start to feel sleepy. Yeah, you feel sleepy, and then you go and say, well, that's enough of that. You close it up, put it to the side, you turn over, you go to sleep. Boom, went to sleep just like that. I would present to you, I submit to you that while you slept, you did not rest. And you wake up and you feel like you didn't. You wake up and you feel a little groggy still. You kind of struggle to get out of bed. That is not what we're talking about. What we are suggesting is refreshing rest. Having refreshing rest. Rest that when you wake up in the morning, you jump out of bed and you're skipping and hopping and just moving along. Remember last night, by the way, if you're tracking what I'm saying, like, I appreciate you, Willie, there. He shakes his head, he nods, he lets me know he's tracking what I'm saying. But if you don't want to shake your head, just blink, just give me a blink or something, let me know. This is making sense to you. That's all I got because I can't see with all the masks, And if you got smiling eyes, let them twinkle, thank you, Marcia, I appreciate that. So, we want to make sure that we're getting refreshing rest. Now notice what it says, the description, the definition that is given about rest. The refreshing quiet or repose of sleep. A good night's rest. Refreshing ease or inactivity after exertion or labor. Now a lot of times people don't understand all that's involved in getting a good night's rest, but we want to make sure that you understand that. But rest, the idea of rest goes even beyond just putting your head down on the pillow and going off and snoozing. Relief or freedom, especially from anything that wearies, troubles, or disturbs, or causes you worry or stresses you out, right? A lot of times people go to bed and they've still got things, they can't turn their brains off. Anybody ever had that experience? You just can't turn it off? And you try, and then insomnia kicks in, and you're there staring up at the ceiling, just wondering, when will I fall asleep, right? That's a terrible experience. I've had that a few times, and it's like, you wrestle with it, and you go turn this way, and you turn that way, and you try to find the most comfortable way to be, and nothing seems to be comfortable. And then finally, you pick up something, maybe you turn on a light, you put on a book, or turn something else on to distract you, and then finally you start to drift off. And before you know it, it's time to get up. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Oh, what a terrible experience, right? So, but there may be some things that are causing this. Oftentimes we lay down with problems. We lay down with trouble. So rest can also mean for us putting aside the things that really tomorrow will take care of. There's a verse in the Bible which I love to read, and it says, who can change anything by thinking, by worrying, right? You can't change anything by doing it, right? So, we'll give you some tips as we go through this evening. So, scientists have finally found the first real reason why we need to sleep, if we get down to the mechanics of it. Why do we need to sleep? Well, there are lots of things that take place while you're sleeping. Does anybody know what takes place while you're sleeping, other than the sound of snoring? There's healing that takes place. While you're sleeping, there's healing. The body goes through a healing process, and you need sleep to do that, right? You need to be resting, and a good night rest. I'm talking about when you've got REM sleep. Rapid eye movement sleep. That's when you have deep sleep. It's beneath the surface where you're not thinking, you don't remember anything. You ever have one of those kind of nights when you wake up and you say, I didn't even dream. I don't remember anything. That's the kind of sleep I like. But you need that rapid eye movement sleep in order to benefit from the healing that takes place. Also, the body detoxes. What do I mean by that? The body actually will detox while you are sleeping. That means all of the things you may have been exposed to during the day, pollutants, any type of chemical things, whatever it is that entered in your body through the orifices that you have, nose, mouth, eyes, whatever it is, the body's going to deal with it that night while you're sleeping. If you're not sleeping, that's why that young man, after he didn't go to sleep over 7 days, gets up. That means his body never was able to expel or get rid of the things that would be harmful to him, and therefore his body was super toxic. And he fell out and he died, right? But this article talks about the fact that there's housekeeping that takes place in addition to the cleansing and the detoxing that the body does and the healing that it does. But the brain cells do some amazing things. While you're sleeping, the brain is working. Did you know that? It's actually taking memories from the day and it's categorizing them and filing them away. And I tell you, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Oh, we ought to appreciate our bodies so much more, right? But while you're sleeping, the body's doing all manner of things, and the brain is actually cleansing out even the negative thoughts that you had that day, the things that would cause you worry. If you allow yourself to rest, come on, you know it's true. I don't have to do a whole science class. You've gone to bed with something on your mind, and you were fearful or worried and stressed about it, but after a good night's rest, you woke up in the morning, and you're like, it's not so bad. I think I can handle this day, right? So there are amazing things that take place while you are sleeping. Now, here's the thing that blew me away. Now, we have various clocks, and you never hear about this. I don't know about you, but I went through school and I never heard about internal clocks. Well, I heard about biological clocks as it pertains to women and having babies and things like that, right? But I never heard about a master clock and peripheral clocks. Anybody ever hear of this? Let me tell you, those of you who are tuning in, live streaming, this is absolutely amazing. The idea that we have a master clock in the middle of our brain, right where the optic nerves cross each other, and it's called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. I know that's a big old word, fancy word, but just follow me here. It's basically a clock. And it is the master clock to the entire the body. And the body has many, many clocks. Lots of peripheral clocks. And what I mean by peripheral, every organ, tissues, and cells have their own clocks. Did you know, this is amazing, where they have taken tissue, live specimen in a petri dish, and even outside of the body, that physiologically, that clock is still active. In other words, it's doing certain times, responding to different times of the day, primarily responding to day, night. And that master clock, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, it takes its cues from light and darkness, day and night. And as the sunlight enters in, a nice burst of it in the morning, as it enters through the optic nerves, travels down the optic nerve to the base of the brain, to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, it turns on all the other clocks. It's amazing. And most of us have our clocks out of sync. When our clocks are out of sync, sickness comes. It's very basic. See, you begin to understand that there are principles of health that we are to abide by, we are to live by, and when we don't, it throws everything off and sickness comes. So it's not optional. We don't have, it's not like, oh, I can choose this or not. No, all of us are subject to the same laws. Every day the sun will rise, every day the sun will set, and you will get up. I don't know about you, but I'm one of those people, as soon as the sun comes up, I'm up. It comes through the window, and I know it. And if the sun doesn't get me, like I told you the other night, I have a little small farm, and I have a lot of birds. I don't know, you might have some roosters and some chickens and things like that, but the birds, they do the job very well. I have lots of trees, and they start to sing, oh boy, as soon as that sun, sometimes they start to sing even before the sun comes up. I said, you're too anxious tonight. You're too anxious. Anyway, we take our cues from night and day, and it applies to each one of us, whether we like it or not. But this is fascinating science. They didn't know this just a few years ago, that we have these internal clocks. The kidneys has a clock. The lungs, they have a clock. The brain, everything has an internal clock that is working at all. You don't even have to think about it. It's doing its work every single day. As I mentioned, there you see sort of a graph of that, how there's the master clock. They call it the SCN. That's the suprachiasmatic nucleus, right? And everything goes through there, and then down to every cell, every fiber, every nerve, every organ, every system has a clock. Everything's working on a clock, and you have to obey the working of the clock. And there's a way to synchronize your clock. Anybody know what that is? The biggest way is when you eat. It's when you eat. See, we've just decided that we eat anytime we want to. You know, it became popular. You want a midnight snack? Let me tell you something, friends. Are you listening to me? No one should ever eat anything at midnight. It's a bad mistake. Well, think about it. The body wants to sleep. It wants to rest, right? And rest, as I mentioned to you, it has different connotations, right? Resting, sleep, like sleep or repose, right? But rest is like music. Any musicians out there? Any music? All right, you know about in music, there's a rest, right? Right? So everything has a rhythm and a rest. A rhythm and a rest, right? The heartbeat, it has a beat and it rests. Everything follows this basic formula, right? But we, in our lifestyle, we want to skip the rest. We just want a rhythm all the time. We just want to go all the time. But we cannot do that without there being some negative consequences, right? There will be negative consequences. So the best way to do it is, the research shows, by the way, there's fantastic science on this, that shows that there's a time when you should eat and there's a time when you shouldn't eat. There are times when you should take medication and there's a time when you shouldn't take medication. They have done many trials, many studies that are showing that it's better to eat your largest meal when in the day? When? Midday. Morning. See how we're all learning together? You'll never have to say that again and go home and have that big meal midday. Instead, the earlier, the better. Why? Because they looked at insulin sensitivity. They looked at what happens when you have a meal early in the morning, high calories or even high carbs, and how then you go about your day, you begin to burn them off, right? And you need to do that because you don't want high blood sugar going throughout your day or when you go to sleep, right? You want that, whatever that glucose is, into the cell by the insulin, and you want it to burn up. But if you're doing it later and later in the day, it doesn't have the opportunity to do that. You're more active during the day. But the science shows that if you do it while the sun is up, even better. So, when do you think most people have their largest meal? At night, after the sun has set, right? They come and they have a big meal, big dinner. It's become a tradition. Worst thing that we can do. For all the reasons that I'm mentioning. Because when the body wants to be resting and detoxing and healing, what does it have to do now? It's got to work. It's got digestion to deal with. And people don't know something so simple as that could be affecting the health of many. So there's a huge clock. Don't take it from me. I want to show you something here. This is what is called the circadian rhythm. The circadian rhythm, and they have broken this thing down to such a science that you can see what the body is doing every hour on the hour. I mean, you are so amazing in how you are designed, right? So there's a circadian rhythm. That's the daily cycle. That's the cycle of day and night. When you're up, when you're resting. When you're up during the day and the sun is on your face and on your skin, like it was for me while I was walking at Chambers Park. At Chambers Park, when the sun was out and the sunlight was coming into my eyes, I felt good. I felt better walking than I did before I went there because there was lots of cloud cover. But when that sun was out, I started to get a little boost of serotonin, right? And the more of the sunlight that was coming in, and the more that I was building up serotonin, tonight as the sun set, I started to feel a little tired. More melatonin is being produced because my body's getting ready for sleep, and so is yours, right? So we have to listen to our bodies. Now listen to this video. I think I have a video here. Do I have audio? Let's hear what, I like showing you little clips from the news because you might say, well, where is he getting this from? But there's lots of really good science on it. Here is one clip talking about it.
And we're back with more of our year-long series, Living Longer Today.
Yeah, we've explored how we feel relative to our actual ages. And this morning, we're going to take a look at how working with our internal clocks may lead to a longer life. From sunrise to sundown, our body's clock is always ticking. That internal watch is called your circadian rhythm, and its main job is to get your body to do the right thing at the right time.
So our circadian rhythm is set by the sun, and we want to eat in line with that. So we say eat with the sun. So eat when the sun is shining and fast when it's not, because that's what your body expects.
Dr. Michael Krupane is the author of What to Eat When. He says giving the body a fasting period helps it repair, reset, and work more efficiently.
The most important factors for longevity are what you eat, when you eat, sleeping well, and your stress levels.
Being out of sync, studies show, can lead to various chronic health conditions such as obesity, diabetes, and depression.
When you live your life in line with your circadian rhythm, that's a lot better for your health. It's better for your weight loss, it's better for your energy, it's better for your sleep.
So what can you do to keep your circadian rhythm on track?
The sun rises every day, and so every day you have a chance to get back in rhythm with your circadian rhythm.
And join us once again to talk about how we can live longer, Dr. Mehmet Oz, the host of the Dr. Oz Show. Dr. Oz, good morning.
Good morning, Doc.
Interesting topic, right? You don't think about only eating when the sun is up, but this is something that really works.
Well, let's talk about the circadian rhythm, which was mentioned in that package. I mean, the Nobel Prize in Medicine, our highest honor, was given 18 months ago for work on circadian rhythm. We overlook the simplest ideas, and it's not just about jet lag and how you sleep. Those are obvious, but when you give chemotherapy, and yeah, if you eat when the sun's up, it actually makes a difference because your metabolism is different when your body is awake as opposed to when your intestines want to sleep.
So exercise, food, and sleep are obviously important to being healthy, but how do you do all that and get in sync with your own body clock?
All right, let's walk through it. So number one problem we're all facing is electronics in our lives. And I'm not talking about people posting to you at night. I'm talking about the actual light itself. You want to turn off the blue light in your phone. Guys, if you can hear my voice, take your phone out right now, go to settings, and you can set it right now. So at 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night, you turn off the blue light part of the light.
What's wrong with the blue light?
So think about when you're a little kid going out camping. Right? The sun sets, everyone's tired. Why? Because the sun has orange rays. It tells your brain to release melatonin. Melatonin is not a sleeping pill. Melatonin is a hormone for circadian rhythm. It tells your body it's late at night, time to go to bed. By showing bright blue light, which is what the sun does in the morning, you're telling your brain, wake up, stay awake. So an hour before your bedtime, you ought to either distance yourself from the phone, which is hard to do, or
change the settings.
Does the TV give off the same blue light?
Problem with TV, all like, there actually are, even on your computer now, you can put screens up to block it, or give yourself half an hour and read a book. It doesn't take a long time for your brain to realize it's nighttime. It'll do it if you help, but automate.
You don't realize your brain's picking up all those little things. I mean, coffee's something that we have around here a lot.
Yeah, what's wrong with coffee?
Don't take it
You don't drink coffee, do you, Carson?
Of course I do.
You look so relaxed and balanced.
Not much, though. How much can you have? What's okay?
So we actually have collected with Sleep Score 4 million nights of data. And 4 million nights of data have told us that if you have 4 cups of coffee or less, Early in the day, you get away with sleep. You can sleep just fine.
Right.
But when you sleep later at night, we think it disrupts your REM sleep. So even if you think you're sleeping, it's not the same quality sleep.
Oh.
And many people like me, 1 in 7 of us, don't metabolize coffee well. So if I have caffeine in the evening, I actually don't sleep well.
So when should we be done with coffee for the day normally?
Well, I would say 6 hours before you go to bed. You ought to be
6
done
hours
with your
before.
caffeine.
You drink coffee all day?
I'll have a cup at night because I sometimes I want to.
Decaf?
No, regular.
Oh, well.
I think because
And
I
you
want
still sleep good?
Yeah, I think. Well, like you said, maybe it's not good.
Yeah,
Who knows?
It's good enough for some, not for others. Why take a risk?
All right.
And then there's the whole issue of food. We started on this topic. Let's end on this
Yeah.
topic. What is the right thing to do? Eat with the sun. The average American eats 15, 16, sometimes 17 hours a day.
Right.
Our intestines go to sleep. And when we keep eating, the food just sits there. And more importantly, there's shocking data now about how you might want to change what you're eating, because it turns out that when you eat dramatically affects how much weight you gain, not just how much calories, but when. So I'll give
Okay,
you some examples.
so this is a breakfast. This is what we should be having.
It's pretty clear. Now, a lot of people, as I mentioned, are using their electronics or using coffee or even working out in the evenings. Bad deal. Exercise is a stimulant. Did you know that? It's a stimulant. You are stimulating your body. You may feel tired after workout, but you've stimulated your body to the extent that you probably won't have a good night's rest. Like you heard Hoda Coffee. She said, you know what? I drink coffee in the evening and I go to sleep. But is she really resting? Right? That's the difference. She's sleeping, but she's not resting. There are lots of things that we're doing that's called, I cannot stress enough, that many of the chronic diseases and issues that we have is simply because we don't sleep. That's why when I decided I want to go around the world and I want to share 5 messages that will impact people's lives. And as I spent several years researching and developing these talks and looking at what the science is saying, 5 things were concluded. You got to talk about the heart. You got to talk about understanding the principles of life and health and the laws of health. You got to talk about sleep. You got to talk about how you're metabolizing and how you're digesting food. And then finally, you got to talk about nutrition. All of these are the most important things. Now, I'm kind of just skimming the surface. I'm giving you information that may appeal to your senses, appeal to your intellect, and just sort of nudge you a little bit to start thinking about these things. But what Mark is going to do over 10 weeks is he's going to walk through each one of these in depth. I would strongly encourage you to go through the 10 weeks so that you can learn, especially when he gets to things like sleep. That's the 2nd week, isn't it, Mark? And he'll really break that down to the extent that you will find yourself having better sleep. And what I love about it is the fact that he'll not only talk about sleep, but he'll talk about these things and their relationship with one another. You saw how the sun plays a part. What you eat plays a part. Exercise plays a part. You just need to know when and to do it in sync with your clocks. That's what it comes down to. Are you living according to your clocks? Because whether you like it or not, they're ticking and they are working and you must be in sync with them. Now, a couple other things. Now, one of the things with high blood pressure, by just adding according to the science, research shows if you add just 1 hour, for those who have hypertension, right? 1 hour to your sleep, whatever your number of hours of sleep is, according to the science, if you add just 1 hour, you reduce your chances of being hypertensive by 30%. And most people are treating high blood pressure with medication. Why not try treating it with sleep or avoiding it altogether with better sleep, right? Why not? Makes sense to me. And then we're going to talk, when we talk about the tips, things that you can do to have a better quality sleep and to have better overall health. We cannot ignore the electronics. It was just mentioned, but I'm going to mention it again. Dr. Oz mentioned it. By the way, I show Dr. Oz because, a lot of times you can give people study after study and information after information, and they'll just look at you, and I've done this and I know it. But as soon as you say, Dr. Oz said it, oh boy, it must be true. So I share with you what I share, and then I also give you a little Dr. Oz, right? So now you know what I'm saying is true. But really the emphasis there was on electronics. Your bedroom where you sleep is for only a few things. One of them is sleeping. You understand what I'm saying? Your bedroom is sacred. There are two things I like to say are sacred: your bedroom and your kitchen table. There should be no stress at either one of those. There should be no things that cause you anxiety in there. And I must say, if you have a television in your bedroom and you are watching a little bit of the nightly news before you go to sleep, you are not going to have quality rest. It is stressing out your brain, stressing out your mind. It gets your mind going and thinking in a way that you can't turn it off, worrying about things that you can't change. Not to mention the fact that you're getting the light that is emitted from that television screen. Of course, we don't have the television screens like we used to, those old black and whites or those old big monstrosities that used to be our television. Now they're these high definition flat screens, right? And we think that we have really arrived when we put one in our bedroom and we put it up on the wall that looks, or we can watch it right from our bed. How convenient. We can binge all night if we wanted to. Bad mistake. Television should not be in your bedroom. I'm thankful. It was probably about 10 years ago that I began to understand this, and I kicked out major electronics from my bedroom. Now, I am guilty of, because I work a lot and all the time, I do take my laptop in there. It's a bad deal. But I'm trying to even fix that. But here's what I've done. Like Dr. Oz mentioned, I actually have a timer on all my electronics. At 9 o'clock, it goes into the mode where it's not emitting the blue light. We should all do that. And then in addition to that, on my Apple Watch and on my phone, it says 9 o'clock. I get a reminder. And the 9 o'clock signal, 9 p.m. that I get, that means it's time to start to wind it down, buddy, right? Time to wind it down. That means go ahead, get your hygiene going, get your flossing going, brush your teeth, right? And do the things that are relaxing and not the things that cause you to actually want to stay up. And my goal is always 10 o'clock, right? Because why? Here's what the science has shown, that for every hour before midnight, it's like getting 2 hours. It's like getting 2 hours of sleep. You don't believe me? Try it sometime. One of those days, just go to bed right around 8 or 9. See if you won't wake up around 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, that doesn't sound all that attractive. But you'll wake up and you'll feel like, wow, I feel great. I feel really, really good. And you feel like you've rested and you don't feel like you need to go back to sleep. It's because if you went to bed at 8, how many hours is that before midnight? Is that 4 hours? Right? That's 4 hours. So double that up. That's 8 hours of sleep if you go to bed at 8 o'clock. Now, I don't think you want to be up at midnight or 1 or 2 in the morning, so you might want to take that into consideration. But it's amazing how between the hours of 10 and 2, that's the sweet spot. Between 10 and 2, those hours are the hours you want to be sleeping, because that's when your body is producing high levels of melatonin to give you that good, restful sleep that we all crave. Now, let me go through a few points here as we begin to wrap this up. We need sleep to maintain ideal weight. You gain weight when you don't get sleep. Do you know why? Anybody know why? You can become a diabetic by not getting enough sleep. The problem is that your body, our bodies, when we are up on our computers or on our phones at 1 in the morning, right, on some social media platform, when we're doing that, the thing that's happening is our body is releasing cortisol because the body knows according to the clocks. Listen very carefully. According to your internal clocks, your body knows when it's time to go to bed. It knows the sun set already. It knows by these internal clocks that now melatonin is supposed to be released and you're supposed to be getting sleepy. And oftentimes we fight through it and we keep doing what we're doing, right? And when that happens, the body says, you know what? They must be being chased by a bear. Oh, yeah. And the body begins to release cortisol, right? It's the stress hormone. It's fight or flight. It's time to do something. The bear is coming to kill you. It doesn't recognize that you're just on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. It doesn't know. It just knows that you're out of sync. And if it's out of sync, your body's trying to save you. Release cortisol. Now, cortisol is good if you need to run really, really fast to get from a bear or fight the bear. It's great. Personally, I wouldn't ever want to fight a bear. Someday or some point in this weekend, I'll tell you my bear story when I was chased by a bear. You talk about some cortisol. I like cortisol because I'm here to tell the story. But I'll tell it at some point this weekend. But that's what happens. But here's the thing. Listen very carefully. When your body's releasing cortisol like that, it's toxic if it's not burned up right away. Sort of like that glucose, that sugar. If your body doesn't burn it up, it's got to do something to save you and protect you. So it releases fat cells and it wraps it up in fat, and you gain weight. And the more fat, the more issues with diabetes, because that's what it's really about. Although it's sort of a misnomer to call it sugar diabetes, it's really fat diabetes. I like what Dr. Wes Youngberg, a prominent physician, the way he says it, he says, diabetes is simply your body or the cells in your body being fat and happy. No, thank you. We're closed. We're fat enough. And the insulin cannot open up that door of the cell and inject the glucose. And it ends up throughout your body. And again, your body says, wait a minute, we can't just let it float around. So you gain weight. And not getting enough sleep will cause that to happen. Fact, adults not getting enough sleep, 55% more likely to be obese. For the reasons that I just mentioned. Children, 89% more likely to be obese. And we know that, you know what? Electronics is the thing. Sometimes they go to bed, and yet they're in there and they're still on their electronics. So now they're up late, and they're not getting quality sleep. Balance hormones. Sleep balances your hormones and lowers cortisol levels when you get good night's sleep. Improves the immune system, all right? And in this COVID-19 era, I already mentioned that, we want to have strong immune systems. Now, there is some science that shows that it was a husband and a wife, and the wife was going through chemotherapy. The husband clearly was probably having better immune function at that time, whereas the wife's was compromised because of the chemotherapy. But they both were exposed to coronavirus, and the husband got sicker than the wife. And everybody scratched their head, and they said, why in the world would that be? Well, it goes to show that the body's immune system is going to fight. And the problem is when it begins to fight this particular virus, it affects, I'll put it to you this way. Your lungs become a casualty of war in the battle. That's what they're saying. But that does not suggest that you should not have a strong immune system. And having a good night's rest clearly shows that you will have a stronger immune system. Have you ever noticed that when you didn't get enough sleep, or maybe you did you had a project done to get done, and you stayed up all night and you compromised your sleep, and then like a day later you caught a cold? Well, the problem is because your immune system was compromised, and not getting sleep will do that. Sleep improves learning, students. There's a doctor, his name is Dr. Neil. Somebody help me out. Dr. Neil Nedley, thank you. Dr. Neil Nedley, he says that as he was going through medical school, he always went to bed right around 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. And he would wake up and he would study between like 1 and like 3, 4 in the morning, or 5 in the morning. And he said that worked so well. He did it all through medical school, right? People thought he was crazy because he'd be like, 6 o'clock, sun hadn't really set, it was just going down. He'd be like, oh, time to go to bed. But that worked because he got those extra 2 hours before midnight, and he was well rested. And oftentimes, I remember in school, either you stayed up all night because you had to study, or you went through the day, did your job, did your school, and then you had to study when you came home. Your mind is not fresh. But he came up with this system, and he recommends it, and it worked very well for him. Good rest lowers risk of depression. How about that? Good rest lowers risk of depression. An estimated 90% of patients who suffer from depression also have some form of sleep apnea. That means that basically you're going to sleep, but you're not resting. Either your airwaves are closing up, you're snoring or whatever. Something is not allowing you to have that quality sleep, and you end up having depression. A lot hinges on sleep. Can sleep help my immune system fight the coronavirus? And I just mentioned some things there to you, but ample sleep supports the immune system, which reduces the risk of infection. It can improve outcomes for people. More sleep, less eating. More sleep, less eating. Oftentimes we eat more than we should. And again, I will emphasize and re-emphasize the point that, the way that Dr. Oz says that we need to stop like 6 hours before we go to sleep, that we need to stop drinking coffee. Well, in terms of eating, we need to stop eating 4 to 5 hours before we go to bed. Here's a good rule of thumb. I typically do 2 meals a day. I do that early meal, and then I do a meal 3 or 4 o'clock, so that I have that window of time where my body is going down, shutting down the internal clock. Your gut system is shutting down, and it wants to just go into a rest mode, not breaking down food. Because it takes about, and we'll talk about this tomorrow, when we talk about constitution of constipation. When we talk about that, we'll talk about how food is digested in time and transition of times and all those kind of things. You don't want to miss it. Your gut will thank you. Rest improves social behavior, relationships. Have you ever seen somebody not enough sleep and they're kind of cranky? Enough said. Sleep obviously improves your athletic performance. Now, here's some tips as we close. Number 1, make your room as dark as it can be. A lot of times we have alarm clocks. By the way, I'm here staying in the luxury suite of this fine establishment. I appreciate it every time I come here. It's a very lovely room, but somebody left the alarm clock on. 2 o'clock in the morning the first night I was here, and it went off. Broke up my sleep. I've been trying to catch up ever since. I just went ahead and did what I normally do. I completely unplugged it, which I should have done in the first place. I guess I was tired after I was picked up. And but the alarm clock oftentimes is emitting light, and it's actually, your brain does not distinguish between that light that's coming from that clock and the sunlight. It just knows it's light. So therefore, the brain is still like processing, is not releasing melatonin. That's why you might be lying there saying, why can't I sleep? And then you keep looking over at that clock. Look at that. It's now 1 in the morning. It's now 2 in the morning. I'm still not asleep. It's 3 in the morning. Why? Because that light is going into your brain, and it's tricking your brain to stay awake. Cool room, 68 degrees or lower. The body likes a cold environment for sleep. So you want it to be a little chilly. Get extra blankets, right? You don't want it to be very hot. Can I give you a trick when you're experiencing insomnia? This is powerful. If you can't go to sleep for whatever reason, anybody wear socks to bed? Don't wear socks to bed. You wear socks to bed, and you admitted it. Okay, so here's the thing. You don't want to wear socks to bed. It's not good, right? Unless you're like, in Alaska somewhere and it's super, super cold, right? Then you can wear your socks to bed. But normally, here's the thing. When you can't go to sleep, leave off the socks, remove the covers off of your feet. Let them be exposed to the elements. All right, you got that? What happens is the blood in your brain, which is triggering and fueling all those thoughts, it gets pulled down to the feet so that it can warm them up. Whatever's cold, the blood is going to attempt to make it as warm as the rest of the body. And when the blood drops from your head ever so slightly, you get groggy. You get sleepy. Try it. You'll thank me later. Exercise early in the day, I've already mentioned that. No late night eating, midnight snacks off. No caffeine, no light from electronics. Get them out of your room. Get early sunshine. Get up in the morning, go for a walk, get the sunshine in the eyes that'll hit the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Then the rest of your day will be so synchronized. And then on top of that, to further the synchronicity, you want to have that meal earlier. And if you begin to train your body really wants to go and eat at the same time, wake up at the same time, go to the bathroom at the same time. It's all according to a clock. No alcohol. Keep room clean and tidy. You ever notice that when your room is nice and clean, you seem to sleep better? Or when you have on nice fresh sheets? Huh? Yeah. All of that. Have a bedtime routine. Floss at this time, brush your teeth at this time, wash your face in, remove makeup, all those things. Do it at a certain time and do that all the time. I mentioned to you the bedroom is for sleeping. Now I'm going to tell you something that Mark's going to talk about when he gets to refreshing sleep. And I think you'll appreciate this in closing. Not only is there a circadian rhythm, but there is a circaseptum rhythm. Anybody know what a circaseptum rhythm is? And I'm not asking the people who have been through the class. The circaseptum rhythm, most people don't know about it, but I'm going to read you something right from the book. And this is the kind of stuff that Mark is going to be teaching that you want to come and be a part of and learn about. It will benefit you greatly. Here, listen what it says here, right here on page 53 of the book, Healthy Self. It says, the world's foremost authority in this field, talking about the circaseptum rhythm, Dr. Franz Halberg has proposed that our 7-day body rhythms, far from being passively driven by the social cycles of the calendar week, are in fact innate and autonomous, and perhaps the reason why the calendar week arose in the first place. Well, I don't believe that. I actually believe in the Bible, and the Bible tells us that 6 days God created the earth, and on the 7th day he rested. So I don't believe that. But here's the part that I do believe. It says, these innate and autonomous rhythms can be observed down to the cellular level of life. So this is what I've been talking about, these cellular clocks, right? But now the circaseptum rhythm is a rhythm that goes every week, every 7 days. Now, how do they know that? Now, again, I didn't believe that first part. I wanted some science. Now, notice the science. The science says, this 7-day cycle, known as the circaseptum rhythm, has also been found in heartbeat rhythm, fluctuations in blood pressure, and urine chemistry and volume. Now, what is it saying here? The heart beats differently, the urine volume, the blood pressure is different every 7 days. Did you know this? This blew me away when I found out this research. It's amazing. Then it says, in case you don't believe it, it says, while these are virtually imperceptible, you don't notice this, to us, it is easier to see the 7-day cycle when the body is stressed and the immune reaction kicks in, such as when we're fighting a cold. No cold is supposed to last more than 7 days. Because the body, every 7 days, it increases its immune function so that it actually kicks it out after the 7th day. So in your body is your body physiologically is programmed to deal with any type of issue every 7 days. It's so effective that, notice this, several observations of transplant patients noted more rejection episodes 7 to 14 days after surgery. In other words, if a person receives a kidney transplant or a liver transplant, They have to give them anti-rejection drugs every the 7th day or the 14th day, because they know at this point that the body's going to do something according to the circadian rhythm. Your body is on a clock, and it is fearfully and wonderfully made. May you get the best rest, knowing that you've learned something tonight that will improve your health, give you more energy, and help you to fight whatever's coming. Mark's going to come up, and he's going to give away a few things. And then tomorrow, maybe you didn't have to, I'll say it this way, maybe you had to work today, and it's been difficult to get here because of your work schedule. But tomorrow, if you want to come and spend time here, first of all, it's safe, but you don't want to miss Constitution of Constipation. It would be good to come and hear this one in person. Mark?